Lewis Hamilton shocks the F1 world by leaving Ferrari to join Red Bull. Stay tuned until the end to discover the true reason behind his stunning decision. Subscribe to stay informed about the latest Formula One news. What originally flickered as a faint, almost dismissible rumor whispered across the paddock, half believed, half dismissed even by those who dared repeat it, has now erupted into one of the most revolutionary and paradigm-shifting moves in the annals of Formula One history. The tectonic plates of the sport have shifted. The news has detonated like an earthquake under the feet of teams, drivers, and fans alike. After an extended period of clandestine negotiations, strategic brinkmanship, high-stakes bargaining, and a maze of power dynamics taking place behind closed doors in boardrooms across Europe and the Middle East, Lewis Hamilton, the most successful driver of his generation and a global icon whose name has become synonymous with excellence, has officially signed with Red Bull Racing. This isn't merely a high-profile transfer. This is a generational upheaval. The move, jaw-dropping in its magnitude and historical resonance, will see Hamilton don the now iconic blue and red racing suit next season, under a mammoth contract estimated to be worth an astronomical $65 million per annum. And that's just the base figure. When you account for performance incentives, marketing bonuses, image rights, and long-term brand integration, it becomes clear that this is one of the most lucrative and strategically aggressive deals ever inked in the sport. This groundbreaking decision comes in the immediate aftermath of another bombshell: the unceremonious and deeply polarizing removal of Christian Horner from his position as team principal at Red Bull, an exit that sent shockwaves across the motorsport community. Horner, who had been the face of the organization since its inception into Formula One, was more than a leader. He was a cornerstone of Red Bull's identity. His abrupt departure created a substantial leadership void, but perhaps more critically, it also freed up significant financial and operational bandwidth within the team. That gap provided Red Bull's higher-ups with the strategic leverage they needed to pursue not just a stopgap replacement or minor restructure, but a complete reimagining of their future. With the Red Bull hierarchy now untethered from the previous regime's commitments and loyalties, they saw an unprecedented opening to not only preserve their dominance but to amplify it by securing the services of the most iconic, most decorated, and still fiercely competitive driver on the grid. Hamilton's pathway to Red Bull was anything but linear. His long-standing affiliation with Mercedes wasn't merely professional. It was personal, philosophical, almost spiritual. He was the face of the team's era-defining dominance, the living embodiment of their technological prowess, consistency, and excellence. When he transitioned to Ferrari in a move that was initially heralded as poetic and destiny-driven, a final attempt to resurrect a sleeping giant, it was viewed by many as the final, legacy-cementing chapter in an already legendary career. But the romance faded far more quickly than anyone predicted. While the world celebrated Hamilton's arrival in Maranello with pomp and spectacle, what unfolded behind the scenes was a far more sobering reality. The integration proved awkward. His ideals clashed with tradition. His expectations collided with systemic rigidity. Multiple internal sources, both current and recently departed, have revealed a litany of frustrations that simmered beneath Ferrari's polished PR veneer. From flawed strategies and inconsistent pit decisions to fragmented communication and deep-seated institutional habits, Hamilton found himself in a labyrinth of inefficiency and unspoken hierarchies. Despite his vast experience and monumental success, he often found his voice diluted in a team that seemed structurally hesitant to adapt around him. A particular point of contention was the strained, if not outright icy relationship between Hamilton and team boss Frederic Vasseur. While publicly cordial, the tension was noticeable to those within the team. Vasseur, a longtime ally of Charles Leclerc and a central figure in Leclerc's development within Ferrari, appeared to maintain a quiet but persistent allegiance to the Monégasque driver. That unspoken favoritism manifested in countless micro-decisions, ranging from who received early aerodynamic upgrades to whose feedback shaped simulator development, that gradually wore down Hamilton's trust and morale. Subscribe to stay informed about the latest Formula One news. The garage, rather than becoming a sanctuary of collaboration, morphed into a battleground of competing visions and subtle political maneuvers. Hamilton, known for his meticulous preparation, data-driven feedback, and relentless pursuit of marginal gains, grew visibly disenchanted. There were whispers of late-night debriefs ending in terse silence, of strategic calls that appeared suspiciously biased, of telemetry being interpreted to favor one driver's style over another. And though the public statements remained sanitized and diplomatic, the paddock could see through the veil. Discontent had rooted itself deep within Hamilton's camp, and Ferrari, rather than adapting, appeared to entrench itself further into its internal hierarchy. Meanwhile, Red Bull had entered a period of institutional flux that few predicted. With Horner's exit, an entire architecture of loyalty, routine, and hierarchy dissolved. But rather than crumbling, the team's leadership seized the moment with cold precision. A new vision was taking form, one that embraced volatility not as a threat but as an opportunity. The resources liberated by Horner's departure, both financial and cultural, were immediately reallocated. Instead of retrenching or preserving the status quo, Red Bull launched a full-scale offensive, an aggressive, meticulously calculated strategy to transform the team not only into an engineering juggernaut, but into a cultural and commercial powerhouse led by one of the greatest athletes of the modern era. Hamilton's demands were sweeping but clear. He sought more than just a seat in a championship-contending car. He wanted authority, influence, and the institutional respect his legacy demanded. He requested structural input, data prioritization, personal engineering staff, creative input in team branding, and a codified role in shaping Red Bull's post-Horner era. Incredibly, Red Bull said yes to all of it. What emerged was not merely a contract but a manifesto. Red Bull was no longer just signing a driver. They were onboarding a visionary, a statesman of the sport, a media titan, and a transformative figure whose presence could galvanize not just a team, but a generation. What lies ahead is a combustible cocktail of ambition, rivalry, and spectacle. The question on everyone's lips is painfully obvious. How will Max Verstappen, three-time world champion and the dominant force behind Red Bull's most recent reign of terror, react to sharing his dominion with Hamilton? Early reports are already hinting at significant friction. Closed-door meetings have reportedly turned icy, simulator sessions are said to be strained, and Verstappen's closest allies have begun floating the possibility of contractual escape clauses should the environment become untenable. Verstappen built his empire at Red Bull. Now, he may have to defend it, internally. Fans and analysts alike are salivating over the narrative potential. Every qualifying session will feel like a referendum on power. Every radio message will be dissected like a diplomatic communique. Every pit strategy will be parsed for hidden messages. This won't be just a season. It will be a psychological war, a performance drama, a reality series unfolding in real time. Ferrari, on the other hand, finds itself in an existential crisis. Hamilton's exit, swift, surgical, and unrepentant, has left the team scrambling. The search for replacement has already triggered a media frenzy, with names ranging from the reliable Carlos Sainz to the nostalgic Sebastian Vettel, to the speculative Fernando Alonso, Lando Norris, and even Andrea Kimi Antonelli. But no matter who fills the vacant seat, the damage is done. Ferrari's credibility has taken a massive hit. The perception that Maranello remains an archaic, slow-moving organization incapable of adapting to elite modern drivers is now firmly entrenched. Back at Red Bull's headquarters in Milton Keynes, work is already underway. Engineers are poring over Hamilton's driving data, studying braking habits, corner exit preferences, fuel management strategies, and tire degradation patterns. Marketing divisions are preparing global campaigns designed to merge the Red Bull lifestyle with Hamilton's brand of social activism, fashion, and luxury appeal. Merchandising projections are off the charts. Social media teams are strategizing how to turn every Hamilton appearance into a viral moment. Red Bull hasn't just signed a driver, they've weaponized a global brand. Subscribe to stay informed about the latest Formula One news. And Hamilton? He looks reborn. Gone is the fatigued, internally conflicted figure seen during his final Ferrari months. Those close to him describe a man reinvigorated, re-engaged, and deeply excited by the scope of the challenge ahead. He's not just switching teams. He's building a legacy from scratch, again. He's attempting the impossible, again. And he's dragging the entire sport with him, into a new era of possibility, confrontation, and unrelenting ambition. The internal landscape at Red Bull Racing was undergoing a seismic transformation, one that echoed not just through the corridors of its Milton Keynes headquarters, but across the entire Formula One ecosystem. The sudden and controversial departure of Christian Horner, once the face of the organization and a linchpin of its success, marked the end of an era. His exit, triggered by a multifaceted internal inquiry and surrounded by swirling controversy, did more than leave a leadership vacuum. It cracked open the door for a complete ideological and strategic renaissance. Rather than crumble under the weight of uncertainty and scandal, Red Bull elected to harness the turmoil as a springboard for radical reinvention. And central to that metamorphosis was the opportunity to shed the immense financial weight of Horner's compensation, redirecting those liberated resources towards something far more ambitious, a move so audacious, so tectonic, it could alter the course of modern Formula One. In the background of this organizational reset, whispers regarding Max Verstappen's future were growing louder by the day. What started as hushed speculation in hospitality suites and garage corners gradually evolved into legitimate, verifiable developments. Verstappen, the team's talisman, its generational superstar, was growing disenchanted. Disillusioned by the changing dynamics within the team and alienated by the new power structures that emerged post-Horner, the Dutch prodigy, long considered untouchable within the Red Bull family, began quietly weighing his options. It wasn't long before those options became tangible. Insider leaks began surfacing. Confidential performance analytics, contractual fine print, and salary frameworks found their way into the hands of rival teams' legal departments. And then the image that ignited a firestorm across the paddock: Jos Verstappen, Max's influential and ever-involved father, deep in conversation with senior Mercedes personnel in the VIP enclosure at the Monaco Grand Prix. That moment didn't just confirm suspicions, it detonated them. Behind the scenes, however, Red Bull was not retreating into damage control. Far from it. The team's remaining leadership, freshly empowered and eager to cement their own legacy in the post-Horner era, saw an opportunity to make a statement so profound that it would eclipse even the loss of Verstappen. They knew that filling Max's seat wouldn't be enough. They needed to set the world ablaze. They needed a shockwave, a seismic event, a narrative-defining move. And there was only one name in motorsport with the weight, prestige, and historical magnitude to fill that void: Lewis Hamilton. Unbeknownst to most, high-level discussions between Hamilton's inner circle and Red Bull's restructured leadership team had already been initiated. The first feelers were sent shortly after the Bahrain Grand Prix, when it became increasingly apparent that Ferrari, the team Hamilton had recently joined, was nowhere near the competitive force he had envisioned. The romance of racing in scarlet had faded into frustration. Tactical blunders, mechanical inconsistencies, and internal discord were plaguing the Maranello outfit, and Hamilton, a man singularly obsessed with legacy, knew that time was his fiercest rival. Tucked within his multi-year contract with Ferrari were escape provisions, clauses negotiated with surgical precision by his legal team, allowing for early termination under specific performance-related conditions. As Ferrari's results deteriorated and internal cohesion began to fray, those exit clauses transitioned from hypothetical safety nets to active lifelines. With Verstappen's transfer to Mercedes reaching its final legal stages, contractual drafts being refined, sponsorship alignments being reviewed, and transition logistics already under discussion, Hamilton and Red Bull moved swiftly. What had begun as exploratory dialogue between representatives quickly escalated into high-stakes bargaining sessions. Red Bull's financial analysts crafted aggressive incentive structures. PR teams envisioned global marketing campaigns. Engineers even began sketching theoretical car adjustments tailored to Hamilton's driving style. Every department, from logistics to legal, operated under strict confidentiality as the deal accelerated. The team was preparing not for survival, but for resurgence, reconstruction through revolution. From Hamilton's perspective, the opportunity was irresistible. Red Bull offered him a competitive platform with a track record of dominance, engineering brilliance, and strategic clarity, everything Ferrari was failing to provide. More than that, the move carried poetic symmetry. Replacing the very driver who had dethroned him in the most controversial finale in Formula One history. Occupying the cockpit vacated by the man who had denied him his 8th world title. It was vengeance through velocity. Redemption through reinvention. And Hamilton, ever the strategist, knew the symbolic weight such a move would carry, not just for the fans, not just for the headlines, but for his legacy. Meanwhile, Ferrari executives were blindsided. Internal sources suggest that panic set in as the realization dawned that their prized star was slipping through their fingers. Ferrari's top brass scrambled to salvage the situation. Personal phone calls were made from John Elkann. Emergency meetings were held in Maranello. Proposals were drafted offering Hamilton greater technical influence, expanded marketing rights, and performance guarantees. But the foundations of trust had already eroded. Hamilton had seen behind the curtain, and what he saw did not align with his championship ambitions. Simultaneously, Red Bull pulled out all the stops. They didn't merely present Hamilton with a race seat, they presented him with a vision. A future. A meticulously crafted campaign built around his global image and championship hunger. The marketing division crafted cinematic teasers. Visual designers mocked up liveries that subtly paid homage to both his past triumphs and the Red Bull ethos. Internal simulations even mapped out potential media impact, projecting record-breaking sponsorship interest and engagement metrics that would dwarf previous campaigns. This wasn't just about winning races. It was about monopolizing attention, dominating the narrative, reasserting Red Bull as not only a racing powerhouse but a cultural monolith. As the summer approached and the sport braced for its traditional silly season, the secretive negotiations reached fever pitch. Legal teams worked around the clock. Logistics departments prepared dual scenarios. Red Bull's technical staff began revising next year's chassis model based on Hamilton's telemetry preferences gathered during past collaborations with shared suppliers. Even the catering staff was briefed on potential dietary accommodations. Every facet of the organization was mobilized for the imminent arrival of a new king. The implications were staggering. Verstappen, likely en route to Mercedes, would reignite a dormant rivalry with George Russell and carry the burden of filling Lewis' shoes. Hamilton, stepping into the seat Max once called his own, would inherit a machine built for domination and an organization eager to restore its throne. Fans, journalists, and industry insiders alike were left breathless at the enormity of it all. In a span of mere weeks, the F1 landscape had been torn asunder and reshaped into something no one could have anticipated. Hamilton, the face of 7 world championships, was aligning with Red Bull. Verstappen, the unstoppable force of the current era, was aligning with the team he once mocked. Ferrari, left stunned and scrambling, found itself at the epicenter of a storm it failed to see coming. And as the dust begins to settle, one truth rises above the rest. Red Bull has not fallen from grace, they have merely shed their skin. The empire is not crumbling. It is evolving. And in that evolution, they have summoned the one man capable of defining greatness all over again. Lewis Hamilton is not finished. He's just getting started. And so is Red Bull. The sheer magnitude and intricate architecture of the newly forged alliance between Lewis Hamilton and Red Bull Racing is nothing short of groundbreaking. This isn't merely a high-profile switch in the driver market, it is a colossal reshaping of Formula One's competitive hierarchy, a dramatic rebalancing of power that could redefine how success is pursued in the sport for years to come. Hamilton's financial package alone is staggering, reportedly worth a base salary of $65 million per annum, exclusive of a wide array of performance-based bonuses, commercial incentives, image rights exploitation, and ambassadorial commitments within Red Bull's far-reaching ecosystem that spans not only motorsports, but also action sports, esports, cultural festivals, and media ventures across the globe. But monetary compensation, while immense, is only one layer of this multidimensional agreement. Hamilton has secured an unprecedented degree of influence that elevates him far beyond the role of a mere competitor. Under the terms of the deal, he is expected to assume a pivotal role in shaping the technical and strategic direction of the team, particularly as Red Bull undertakes the complex and highly ambitious development of its own power unit in preparation for the sweeping regulation overhaul set for 2026. This is more than just an invitation to give feedback, it is a formalized commitment to embed Hamilton into the very fabric of the engineering and innovation pipeline. He is slated to work in direct collaboration with Red Bull powertrains, contributing his unparalleled insights to engine architecture, energy deployment strategies, thermal efficiency modeling, hybrid integration, and much more. This degree of embedded authority is far beyond anything he previously experienced. At Ferrari, his voice was often filtered through layers of tradition and corporate inertia, with limited ability to impact the direction of car development. At Mercedes, he certainly wielded considerable respect and input, especially during the early dominance of the turbo-hybrid era. But even there, critical design decisions remained largely in the hands of a closed circle of technical directors. At Red Bull, however, Hamilton's role resembles that of a co-architect, a visionary co-pilot helping to chart the trajectory of the team's future in ways never before seen for an active driver. Yet even beyond the engineering schematics and contract negotiations, the emotional and psychological dimensions of this move are perhaps the most profound. Insiders close to Hamilton describe a man reborn, reinvigorated not by financial incentives or political maneuvering, but by the raw, visceral thrill of undertaking a monumental challenge at a stage in his career when most drivers would be coasting toward retirement. Red Bull doesn't represent nostalgia or the safe path. It symbolizes volatility, ambition, and unpredictability, qualities that resonate with a Hamilton who has always refused to be defined by conventional boundaries. While his tenure at Ferrari was cloaked in legacy and the allure of historical reverence, it also came with suffocating expectations and organizational rigidity. Red Bull, in contrast, offers freedom. Freedom to experiment, to lead, to reimagine what a champion's twilight years can look like. This is not a farewell tour. It is a renaissance. Hamilton is not looking to fade into the background with dignity. He is preparing to assert dominance on his own terms, forging a final chapter that is anything but passive. His goal is not merely to compete, it is to reignite a firestorm that culminates in an 8th world title, shattering the record books and silencing doubters. Within days of finalizing the agreement, Hamilton was already immersing himself in the team's inner workings. His visits to the Red Bull Technology Campus have been discreet but intense. Reports indicate that he has spent extended hours with aerodynamicists, chassis engineers, and data analysts, poring over technical simulations, reviewing telemetry overlays, and analyzing dynamic weight transfer under different cornering profiles. His feedback has already prompted minor revisions to cockpit ergonomics, suggesting adjustments to seating alignment and pedal travel designed to maximize driver confidence under extreme G-force conditions. What's more, Hamilton's arrival is sending ripples through every layer of Red Bull's ecosystem. From junior driver mentorship programs to marketing campaigns, from simulator development to pit stop drills, his presence is catalyzing a cultural evolution. His meticulous approach to fitness, mental resilience, and data interpretation is being incorporated into training modules for younger talents. His input on simulator realism and pedal response curves is helping to refine the virtual feedback loop that underpins Red Bull's race weekend preparation. Internally, there is a sense of reverence surrounding his contributions. Adrian Newey's design team, legendary for their perfectionism, has reportedly been impressed by Hamilton's ability to dissect aerodynamic behavior with pinpoint accuracy. Discussions between Hamilton and senior engineers have already delved into topics such as high-speed airflow separation, brake duct optimization, and floor flex dynamics. He's not just adding his name to the car, he's attempting to engineer the next era of domination from its foundational layer. From a commercial standpoint, the partnership is nothing short of a branding juggernaut. Red Bull's marketing division is already in the early stages of rolling out cross-platform campaigns that align Hamilton's identity, his activism, fashion-forward image, environmental advocacy, and global celebrity, with Red Bull's boundary-pushing, risk-taking DNA. Discussions are also underway about Hamilton playing a leading role in Red Bull's entry into electric mobility innovation, alternative fuels research, and potentially even cinematic storytelling in the form of documentaries or scripted dramatizations. For fans, the emotional resonance of this alliance is off the charts. The memory of Hamilton's fierce battles with Red Bull, especially the unforgettable 2021 title fight, remains vivid in the collective memory of F1 enthusiasts. That same man, once locked in a bitter war with the team, is now poised to become its talisman. It's a narrative twist so dramatic, so rich in irony and symbolism, that it feels almost mythological. But Hamilton is not here to relive old rivalries. He's here to redefine what it means to be legendary. Team insiders report that even Max Verstappen, Red Bull's reigning icon and current centerpiece, has taken a keen interest in Hamilton's early interactions with the team. While some speculate about potential tensions or turf wars, sources close to the team insist that both drivers understand the magnitude of this moment. If the two can coexist, and perhaps even collaborate, Red Bull may become unstoppable. Ultimately, this isn't just a sports story. It's a blueprint for reinvention. For Hamilton, it represents the ultimate evolution, from driver to architect, from champion to innovator. For Red Bull, it's a bold leap into a new paradigm, one that fuses instinct and intellect, youth and experience, disruption and legacy. And for Formula One, it's a moment of tectonic shift, an epic-defining gamble that will either end in a mortal triumph or become the most audacious experiment in modern motorsport history. Either way, history is being written, and Hamilton is holding the pen. Here is a much longer rewritten version in English, using synonyms throughout, expanding every idea for maximum engagement, depth, and drama, as requested. The realm of Formula One has been utterly shaken, turned upside down, and redefined by what many are now calling the most sensational driver switch in the history of modern motorsport. What initially seemed like an outlandish rumor whispered in paddock corners has now become cold, undeniable fact, a transfer so staggering, so implausible just a few months ago, that even seasoned insiders are struggling to process the magnitude of this upheaval. This seismic move hasn't just shifted drivers between teams, it's triggered a complete paradigm shift across the entire competitive landscape of the sport. The moment the news was officially released, an explosion of emotional responses erupted across the digital universe. Twitter feeds ignited, Reddit threads multiplied by the second, fan-made graphics flooded Instagram, and TikTok lit up with stunned reactions, breakdowns, and memes that captured the sheer disbelief reverberating from Monaco to Melbourne. Die-hard supporters of both Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen were left either elated or devastated, some expressing uncontainable excitement for what lies ahead, others mourning what feels to them like betrayal, disloyalty, or a disruption of the natural order. Veteran analysts, former champions, and seasoned commentators were equally caught off guard. Even those with deep industry contacts and supposed insider knowledge couldn't predict this unfolding drama. It is, in every sense, a historic twist of fate, a storyline so dense with emotional complexity and sporting implications that its impact will be studied and debated for years to come. The very DNA of the Formula One ecosystem has been rewritten with a single announcement. Red Bull Racing, a team that for over half a decade was meticulously tailored around the fierce, untamable energy and merciless pace of Max Verstappen, has opted to hit the reset button in the most unexpected fashion. The organization that once thrived on aggression, youth, and audacity has now chosen to usher in a new chapter led by none other than Sir Lewis Hamilton, a man whose career has been defined not only by raw speed, but by mental fortitude, strategic clarity, and peerless racecraft under pressure. This is not simply a substitution of one world-class driver for another. It is a complete reimagination of team identity. Red Bull is no longer the house that Max built. It is transforming into a sanctuary for calculated brilliance, seasoned experience, and unshakable poise. And yet, what has truly set the Formula One world ablaze is the breathtaking symmetry of what's happening simultaneously behind closed doors at Mercedes-AMG Petronas. Trusted sources embedded deep within the Brackley outfit have confirmed that negotiations with Max Verstappen have not only been ongoing for months, they've been successfully finalized. The ink, we're told, is dry. The formal announcement is expected imminently. In the blink of an eye, the two most dominant drivers of their generation are not only switching allegiances, they're exchanging legacies, swapping philosophies, and stepping into the shoes of one another at precisely the same moment in their careers. Hamilton to Red Bull. Verstappen to Mercedes. An exchange so cinematic, so laced with poetic justice and ironic genius, that it defies the normal logic of sport. This titanic dual transfer has detonated like a bomb in the heart of the paddock, sending shockwaves through every garage, every strategy department, every simulator room across the grid. Teams like Aston Martin, Alpine, Williams, and McLaren are suddenly facing a future they never anticipated. Long-term blueprints must be revised. Development programs are being ripped apart and redrawn. Driver academies are being scrutinized, and financial backers are reassessing their bets. The ripple effects are limitless. Contracts signed just weeks ago feel obsolete. Alliances that once felt indestructible are unraveling. No one, absolutely no one, is safe from the fallout of this unparalleled realignment. As the Formula One universe braces itself for what can only be described as a colossal, earth-shattering transition, the headlines have already shifted from mere speculation to jaw-dropping certainty. Lewis Hamilton, the seven-time world champion, the man who redefined excellence behind the wheel, is about to embark on a daring, almost mythical chapter of his storied career. The whispers have now evolved into roars, the rumors into reality, and the mere thought of Hamilton strapping into a Red Bull cockpit has ignited a frenzy the sport hasn't seen in decades. Across continents, from Tokyo to Sao Paulo, from Silverstone to Abu Dhabi, fans, pundits, engineers, and former legends are grappling with the scope of this historic shift. People are no longer just curious, they're utterly captivated. What will he look like wrapped in the vibrant navy and crimson of Red Bull Racing? How will he adjust to the pulsating energy and uncompromising structure of the Milton Keynes-based powerhouse? Will his commanding presence recalibrate the DNA of the organization or elevate it to an echelon it has never reached before? The questions are endless, the stakes monumental, and the atmosphere electrically charged. The 2026 Formula One season has now been redefined, transformed from a standard championship year into an epic-defining narrative that will be dissected, chronicled, and analyzed for generations to come. Every camera lens will be zoomed in, every mic on the pit wall will be turned up, every simulator session will be surrounded by layers of intrigue. Because Lewis Hamilton, now entering his 40th year, is not slowing down. He's not taking a graceful exit. He is launching a full-scale comeback of legendary proportions, and he has chosen the unlikeliest of stages to do it: Red Bull Racing, the team he once waged war against. This isn't merely a driver signing. It's a philosophical collision, a cultural overhaul, an infusion of championship gravitas into a team defined by relentless dominance, ruthless ambition, and a razor-sharp commitment to winning at all costs. The garage will change. The briefing rooms will evolve. Every mechanic, strategist, and data analyst at Red Bull knows the dynamic is about to shift. Hamilton is not a passive addition. He's an institution. His entry will ripple across every department, from chassis development to aero testing, from PR engagements to marketing strategies. The man brings not just speed but substance, a legacy drenched in titles, in comebacks, in political statements, in social movements, in moments that transcended sport itself. And yet, there's another layer, a subplot as compelling as the main headline: Max Verstappen, the current king of the Red Bull empire, the dominant force of the current era. What happens when two titans, two alpha figures, two entirely different racing philosophies, share the same garage? This isn't just a teammate dynamic. This is an impending saga. Will sparks fly, or will a new kind of synergy emerge? Will they clash on the track or collaborate in the pursuit of shared glory? Will the tension simmer quietly or explode publicly in team meetings, press conferences, and radio outbursts? No one knows. And that's what makes this so intoxicatingly irresistible. Each weekend will now carry the weight of global fascination. Every qualifying session will be an event. Every race start, a high-stakes duel. Every tire strategy, a potential powder keg. The telemetry data won't just be analyzed, it will be worshipped, dissected by fans and critics desperate to determine who has the edge. And the radio messages? They'll become cultural artifacts, meme material, psychological warfare, the source of endless interpretations. One miscommunication could spark an inferno. One coded message could suggest a rift. One sarcastic reply from Hamilton or a cold silence from Verstappen could launch 1,000 headlines. Hamilton is not walking into a team looking for a savior. Red Bull doesn't need rescuing. They're the reigning titans. But they've never had someone like Hamilton inside their castle. This is a man who has lived through every iteration of Formula One, from V8s to hybrids, from midfield battles to dominance streaks. He's played the political game. He's faced down adversity. He's made statements with both speed and silence. Now, with nothing left to prove and no legacy to defend, he's taking the most audacious risk of his life. And the world is salivating at the prospect of watching it unfold. The visual alone will be staggering. Hamilton in Red Bull colors, walking down the paddock with Christian Horner beside him, sharing a debrief room with Verstappen, giving his first post-session interview with Red Bull branding everywhere. Fans will freeze-frame every video, analyze every interaction, speculate on every handshake or lack thereof. The psychological warfare will be just as riveting as the racing. Because this isn't just about lap times, it's about control, about authority, about rewriting the final chapters of an already immortal career. And while some skeptics may argue that Hamilton is past his peak, that his best days are behind him, the man himself seems to be embracing the opposite. He's not just returning, he's relaunching. He's rejuvenated. There's a new fire in his eyes, a clarity in his demeanor, and an unmistakable hunger in his tone. He's no longer burdened by pressure. He's driven by pure ambition, by the challenge, by the thrill of proving once again that greatness has no expiration date, that legends don't fade, they evolve. The 2026 season will not just be about constructor standings or drivers' points. It will be a year-long emotional roller coaster, a season of theater, of drama, of poetry on wheels. Every track will feel like a stage. Every Grand Prix a showdown. Every podium a symbol. Millions will tune in not just to see who wins, but to see what unfolds. What's said? What's left unsaid? What glances are exchanged? What respect is earned? And what rivalries are born or reignited? And when the lights go out in Bahrain, and the roar of the engines drowns the world in adrenaline, one driver, now wearing new colors, sitting in a new machine, surrounded by new faces, will be carrying the hopes, expectations, doubts, and dreams of millions. Lewis Hamilton, no longer the face of Mercedes, will now be the wild card in Red Bull's empire. And while the world watches in awe, holding its collective breath. One thing will be certain beyond all debate. This isn't the end of the Lewis Hamilton era. It's the most audacious beginning yet.